Do you ever wonder why making your own trading card game feels impossible? Game design is incredibly hard. To make a TCG, you'll find yourself doing graphic design, art, math, marketing, and more. It's easy to fail at one or more of these activities. For example, you might spend way too much time designing mechanics in your head. Or your core design falls apart 5 minutes into the playtest where you made 100 cards. Or an online forum trashes you for using AI art. You are going to need a plan. That's where design thinking comes in. It's a user-centered approach to solving problems. Hey, I'm Clint. I've been a digital designer for over 20 years where I use this approach daily. Over the past few years, I've been teaching this process to game designers at conventions, and now I'm bringing it directly to you. Today, I'll also help you assess your design skills, and based on that, you'll have a clear plan for the rules complexity of your game. This series is going to teach you how to focus on what matters and get your game to the table. It's time to stop failing and start creating. Let's dive in. So, what are trading card games? Trading card games encompass a variety of formats, including HTCGs, or home trading card games. Examples like Chaos Galaxy and Shard TCG fall into this category. There's self-contained games. These are complete and in a single package, such as Radlands or Blue Moon. There's living card games, or LCGs, games where you purchase a predefined group of cards like Arkham Horror the Card Game and Earthborn Rangers. And of course, there's the collectible booster pack models, games like Magic the Gathering and Lacana. All these games have pieces that introduce new rules or exceptions, where reading the card explains the card. What's our process look like? It's easy to get bogged down in game design tutorials and resources. It's easy to tell yourself that watching YouTube videos, making art in Midjourney, and designing your card frame is game design. Here are the only two things you need: goals and design. Goals help you keep focused. They help you filter out feedback that doesn't matter, and they force you to finish something. Design is about making something for people. Games are not art. Art is all about the artist expressing themselves. Design has goals and an end user. Design is never perfect the first time. Like the scientific method, we will make a hypothesis, test it, and iterate. Let's talk about resistance. This guide will be split up into individual sessions you can finish in one sitting. Do not start a session unless you know you can finish it. If you're having a tough time finishing a task, just do the best you can. None of this is set in stone. The worst thing you can do is quit. Resist the urge to open up your browser for more research so you'll be ready. This may feel like work, but it's just a distraction that will keep you from making your game. Use a sketchbook or keep a running digital document that you can easily refer back to during playtesting. Let's do this. This session should take you about an hour. It's very easy to get off track when making a card game. Having goals helps you know what to focus on. When something isn't working in your game, you'll want to fix it to get closer to your goals. What are your goals? Everyone has a reason for why you're making a game. Maybe you don't like an aspect of your favorite TCG. You probably have an idea for a world and mechanics. It's usually something like, I want to be in a dystopian world and kind of like Magic. That's a good start, but let's be more specific. Here are some examples. Maybe you have a market-based goal. You want to fix Mana Screw and make a game where your resources reliably scale up. Maybe you have a player experience goal. Make a game that feels like players are exploring a dungeon. Or some other goals you could have are make a playable game in a month, or get a job in the card gaming industry. Or you might want to kickstart a successful game that makes over 10K. Right now, go ahead and capture 2 to 3 design goals. Assign numerical priorities to them. Changes to your game mechanics will often have a ripple effect and cascade throughout the system. Parts of the game will get better, but other parts will change completely. And if you have a prioritized list of goals when this happens, you'll know if it was the right change for your game. What is your focus for this game? Is it bottom up or top down? Are you interested in the rule set? Or are you a world builder who's using the game to tell a story? You probably have ideas for both, but it's important to decide what your priority is for this project. Top-down is using a world or a story to define the mechanics of your game. And bottom-up is focusing on the rules first, and then having the story follow how the game plays. How experienced are you at making games? If you've been playing TCGs, then you've made it past the beginner phase. Depending on your experience with game design, you'll stay closer to established design patterns. This way you can have a functional game that you can iterate on. Here's my way of classifying design experience levels. Intermediate is you've never made or reskinned a game. Maybe you've never playtested a game with strangers. Advanced is I've made a card set for an existing card game, or I've designed and playtested prototypes with strangers. Decide which one of those most describes yourself. So now, depending on your experience and focus, that will put your game into one of 4 quadrants. If you're an intermediate designer working top-down, you will make a mod. You'll be reskinning an existing rule set with your factions, flavor, and mechanics. You could make a Lorcana set, but using only your world, characters, and artwork. If you are an intermediate designer who's working bottom-up, you'll be making a hack. Take a game you like and change one core rule. Maybe you want to fix Mana Screw and Magic and change the rules to address that. And if you are an advanced designer working top-down, you'll create a narrative. This is similar to a hack, but you'll lean in way harder to the world building and theme. And finally, if you are an advanced designer working bottom up, you'll make a construction. This is building your rule set from scratch, but since you're focused on the rules, you'll spend less time on the theme. None of these ways are better than the other. There are plenty of successful games out there in each of these categories. Think of the video game industry. Do they reinvent the wheel in every new game? Most of the time with TCG design, I see people trying to make constructions because card game design allows it. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Being original is overrated. You don't want your game to die in the design phase before you can have people play it. A well-executed mod will be much more successful than a bad construction. At the end of the day, this choice just helps you determine what to do to move forward. It can change later if your goals change or a great idea hits you during playtesting. Here's a different way to think about intermediate and advanced resources. Advanced games are going to take more time, testing, and cognitive load from your players. They'll take more time because less of the mechanics are tested and you'll have to do a lot of iteration. They'll take more cognitive load from your players because they'll have to learn new rules and mechanics that don't match their mental models of how TCGs work. More resources equals more time equals more resistance. It'll be harder to test your game. It will be harder to finish your game, and it will be harder to achieve your goals. Speaking of goals, this is a good time to review them from before. Do they work with the category that your game is in? Your first game isn't going to displace the big 3, Magic, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! You need to be honest with yourself about what you can achieve. If you get a few strangers to play your game and have fun, then you'll achieve a lot more than most. If you need to slightly alter your goals to be a bit more realistic, do it. So that's it for today. You're one step closer to getting your game to the table. Subscribe if you don't want to miss upcoming episodes, and for those who prefer reading, you can find a text version of the full series linked below. Keep creating, and I'll see you around.